Welcome back to the Chosen Life podcast, or as they call it in Toronto right now, the Nightmare Life. I'm Jonathan Hacohen, author of the Bible 3.0, the Six Commandments of the Chosen Life, available Audible, Indigo, Barnes and Noble, Amazon. Pick up your copy, ebook, audiobook, physical book. Let's talk creating your chosen life. That's Wayne Frazer Jr. of Doug Laurie Sports, the man who sells you all your sports and memorabilia needs. Wayne Frazer, how you doing, buddy?
I'm better than I think most Toronto fans are. And we could pretty much put that towards just about any sport we want to talk about, I think.
Wayne, when it was announced that the Maple Leafs, and that's our topic today, when the Maple Leafs were going to be playing the Boston Bruins in the first round, why did I not empty my bank account and put all the money on the Bruins to win the series? I thought I needed to do that. I was sure I had to do that. I watched that game seven from beginning to end. The second you heard Joseph Wall was out, you might as well just start packing up for Tahiti.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much of that final loss you want to blame on Samsonov. He played well enough. Um, but again, a goal that probably shouldn't have gone in. Uh, I I just don't know what are we left to say with about this team. It's been 8 years, 7, 8 years now, 9 years, 2016, 17. And every year we say exactly the same thing. Off, we just got a break in the playoffs. Off, we just had better goaltending. Off, we just had this. We have what are supposed to be, I would say, probably the best top four in the league. I'm not saying they are, but I'm saying that they have to be considered as one of the top four in the league. And yet one playoff win in all that time. I don't know at what point you just throw your hands up and go, well, I need to stop caring about this because apparently the people on the other end don't care all that much either. And I know people are going to say, oh, they care, they care. And all right, I'm sure they care, right? They're paid to care. But there has to be some point where, somebody steps in and says, this is not working. It's not working with the player and the personnel we have. Um, you know, we'll talk about Trey leaving and who's going to go and who's going to stay and all that. But I don't care how good you think your roster is. You have a track record now that shows that this roster does not work in the postseason the way you want it to. And that means you have to make changes. And those changes, I just don't know whether anybody actually has the guts to make the changes that are necessary because it involves removing at least two of the four core pieces or utterly blowing the team up and being terrible for a couple of years, which is almost unthinkable considering what you have on the roster. But that's I think those are your two options, right? Either you make some major moves or you make the absolute, nuclear bomb of everybody's out and we're starting fresh.
Wayne, looking at this team's record, and we know this roster the way it's constructed, and we'll talk about it, but going back from 2024 to 1990, their playoff record, I'm going to start going over how they succeeded or not succeeded. Lost in the first round. Last year, 2023, they won one round. They lost in the conference semifinal. Great. Lost in the first round, lost in the first round, lost in the qualifying round, lost in the first round, lost in the first round, lost in the first round. Hi, Boston. Missed playoffs, missed playoffs, missed playoffs, lost first round. Missed playoffs times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years in a row from 2006 to 2012. They did win a round in 2004 and lost in the conference semifinal. Lost in the first round. Lost in the conference finals in 2002. 22 years ago, we won two rounds. Yay. Then we won a round, won two rounds again in 1999. Missed the playoffs a couple years. Lost in the first round a couple years. We won two rounds in a row back in 93, 94. Missed a couple playoffs again, a couple years in a row, and then lost in the first round in 1990. Wayne, what you don't need is a Wayne. You don't need a roster deconstruction. You don't need to blow up or make trades, which will happen, by the way. But what you first and foremost need is a shaman. So I talk about that in my book, The Bible 3.0, where as a real estate lawyer, I used to tell clients that thought they had houses that were cursed or didn't feel good energy in their homes. I said, you need a shaman, and the shaman will clear out your energy. And I took my own advice. I ended up finding a shaman for myself. And Wayne, she did wonders for me. It was unbelievable experiences at the shaman, and my life is so much better for it. We need to hire a shaman for the Toronto Maple Leafs, bring the shaman over to what is it called now? Scotiabank Arena, Air Canada Center, Maple Leaf Gardens, whatever it is today, and bring those players to their dressing rooms respectively, have them lie down, have the shaman turn on some music and chant. And we really, really, really need to help these people because I'm starting to feel Red Sox, Chicago Cubs type curse. If we're not going to get the shaman, I got the second closest thing to you, and I think we've said this on previous episodes. I know we said it on this show in general. Theo Epstein ain't doing a lot right now. I know that he's over with Major League Baseball and helping them out with whatever they're doing. So, Theo, all the things you did to help break a couple curses of baseball, let's bring you over and apply it to hockey. I say the Toronto Maple Leafs hire Theo Epstein. That's my first point on how I'm going to fix his team. What do you think about them apples?
Well, first off, when you say shaman, boy, that sounds a lot like Shanahan, and that didn't work out great. Um,
Very different
I,
people.
I don't think that hiring somebody almost completely out of the realm of normal expectation is a bad idea. Um, I mean, it's not like Theo Epstein isn't smart enough to figure out how hockey works. Um, Personnel guy. He's a personnel guy, right? Same as Anthopoulos, you know. Um,
You
there
mean
you
the
go.
guy who won the World Series with the Braves? That Anthopoulos?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. The guy that Toronto ran out of town and then became successful somewhere else. Never heard that before. Um, you know, you need a guy like that. And who is out there that you know you're going to grab in the hockey world? Who's going to come in? I mean, let's talk a little bit about who's fired. I think the bigger question is who isn't fired here. You know, do I blame Sheldon Keefe for this? I don't. Sheldon Keefe is playing the players that he's been given. And I think you saw in this playoff round, despite the fact that they lost in 7 games, this team is being moved towards being more effective in the playoffs. It didn't work in the first round this year. They probably are they a better team than Boston? I think that's almost a coin flip, right? But they hit more, they blocked more shots, they played more, they played defensively. That's what you've got to be grinding towards when you get to the postseason. And most of that was done by the little niggling moves that Trey Living made for Edmondson, for a guy like Bertuzzi, for Labushkin. You know, those deals have they all worked out well. I mean, you look at the defensive pairings that the Leafs were using in the playoffs, they were all very good statistically, right? What are they missing? Well, what are they always missing? They were missing a goaltender. They they probably should have played Wool from the start, but Samsonov had played well down the stretch. I'm not going to be upset about that either, right? The question becomes Shanahan is fired. It's got to be over with now. The Shanna plan is Shanna wreck. And I think if you remove him, unfortunately, I think Trey Living might go out the door. I think they might clean house, which I think is a mistake. It's not Brad Treliving's fault. I don't even really look, and I'm not a big Sheldon Keefe backer. There are things he does that drive me crazy. Some of his line pairings, the defensive pairings that he decides he's going to stick together to try out that we know are not going to work, kind of drives me nuts. But I don't think he's terrible. I just don't think he's a great coach either. I think this is one of those cases again where you're in a situation with contracts. Who can you move? Well, to do anything of any consequence to this team, you've got to move Tavares and you've got to move Marner. Those are the two guys who don't have their extensions. The Tavares isn't getting an extension, but everybody's got full trade clause, no trade clauses, right? You're going to have to, where does Marner want to go? What can you sweeten the pot for him? But you've got to remove a couple of those guys, and you've got to spend money on a stud goaltender and upgrading your defense. You just have to. It's not going to work any other way. If we thought it was going to work any other way, we have 8 years of proof to show us that it's not. Taking these four guys and say whatever you want about them. Look, Austin Matthews, 69 goals, a Selke Trophy finalist. I mean, the guy is an incredible hockey player. Is he a leader? I don't see it. Is Mitch Marner a leader? I don't see it. Who do we have on this team? Who's the leader on this team? Is it Ryan Reeves? Is it, I don't know who, is it Edmondson since he stepped in? I mean, I don't know who else. Who's the guy? You can look at other teams and very quickly identify Matthew Tkachuk, Brad Marchand, or David Pasternak. You can identify the spiritual leader of the team. Who is the spiritual leader of the Leafs?
I think it's
Carl,
Tavares. I think it's Tavares and Riley.
Carlton the Bear. He's tougher than these guys are.
I'd put him in goal for sure. Well, we're gonna jump around back and forth between various segments here with this. So let me start off with this, Wayne. It absolutely killed me when I heard that Linus Ullmark was traded to the LA Kings and he blocked the trade. And watching Jeremy Swayman destroy the Leafs, knowing that Ullmark is sitting on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
In what planet would the Bruins agree to trade Ullmark to the Leafs? Would you trade
The one,
Marner
the
for Ullmark right now?
the one where you gave them Austin Matthews. I I don't I don't know that they would trade Allmark for Marner. I think they would be wise to do so, but I don't know if they would. Um, is it's a luxury having those two guys there, and they fit together so well. They play together so well, right? That the way they work down in the regular season, where it's just 1-1-1-1-1, when you get to the playoffs, both your guys are fresh,
But why'd
right?
they agree to trade him to the Kings then? What was the thinking there, do you think?
I don't know what the deal was of what they were getting back. Um, if you're overwhelmed in a trade, you're going to make that deal, unless you think it absolutely destroys your team chemistry. But if you are only underwhelmed or whelmed, well, I don't really understand the word overwhelmed, but if you were only whelmed and you think, man, this could really play hell with our team chemistry and with Swayman, right? Having Olmark to lean on, being a younger goalie and everything. If it was me, if I was the Bruins, I don't think the Bruins are getting out of the second round. As much as you want to talk about Swayman or all Sway and all that, Allmark, I don't think they're getting out of the second round. And then that talk changes dramatically. Okay, we didn't win a Stanley Cup with these two guys. Do we really need both of them? And if we can go out and get somebody else, a high end scorer, would the Leafs give Marner for Allmark? I don't think they would. You know why? Because they're not that smart. Because they're so married to the perception of, look at these guys, look what they can do. You just read out what they can do. We know what they can do. It's not great.
And Wayne, looking at the list of available free agents, this is the last list I've received here, and not sure if it's up to date or not, but sure, I'm pretty sure it's close. The Freddie Andersons, maybe Aiden Hill, Cam Talbot, Brian Elliott, Craig Anderson, like Mike Smith, like Samsonov again, Martin Jones. Marc-Andre Fleury, I think, resigned. There's nobody. There is nobody. And so you're gonna get Joseph Wall and Hope, and this is a guy that couldn't stay healthy all year. Yeah, I'm not excited about that. The only guy I'm excited about is Allmark. Allmark is not a free agent for another year, unfortunately. So we wait to blow up this thing for another year. Allmark is a free agent. We have to sign Allmark, but by then it's long, long, long too late. I'm gonna tell you, like, how long do we do this for? And I agree with you. So let's start from the management side of things. With this track record, and this is a track record for many years. This has not just been the last 5 years, right? We're talking 30 plus years, and it's atrocious. So we're not gonna go and get the shaman in here. Uh, Here's a problem. You had Lou Lamorello, right? Lamorello was the genius. He knew how to construct the Devils. We felt really good as far as how Lamorello was constructing us together with his two henchmen, and then one left, and the other one left. We're not going to go into those names, but you're not going to bring back Lamorello at this point, and he's not like he's been blowing up the waters with the Islanders. I don't see any cups over there. Um, unless you're going to go and get somebody at the highest, like Steve Eiserman's not going to come here, right? Joe Sakic ain't going to come here. Guys with pedigrees. I don't know who's available to replace Shanahan, but sometimes change is simply needed for change. It's not working. This job isn't working for me. This house isn't working for me. This car isn't working for me. This gym is not working for me. This diet's not working for me. Whatever it is. Sometimes you just got to blow it up and start it fresh just because you need change. And keeping the same guard and the same players, it's not going to go for them. Like, we're going to keep doing this and keep every year we say, okay, it was another year, but you know what? Next year is going to be different. Next year is going to be. Wayne, my head is bleeding from banging against the wall and keep saying that. It's not happening. So I think even if we're going to say, you know what, they put this team together and, bad luck and Joseph Wall got injured and this happened and that happened, I don't really care anymore. I'm going to start off. I would just clean house completely. So first of all, I get it's not necessarily Traveling's fault, but you know what? It bugs me with their GM when the Leafs scored and he starts cheering, he looked over at Shanahan to see how much he's cheering and decided how much he's going to cheer back. And you can see, he's scared to death of Shanahan. And they brought him in under weird circumstances, with their former GM. You remember him? And
Yeah, he's doing amazing stuff too, huh?
he's doing real good out there, right? What was his name again?
Yeah, Dubas is
The guy with the glasses? Yeah.
yeah, Dubas is well, I guess that speaks a little bit to the ability of the management to pick the right guys, right?
And look, I thought it was a great pickup for Pittsburgh, but on the same token, when you come to another aging roster, and not enough defense and suspect goaltending. He went from 1A to 1B, when he transferred over to Pittsburgh. So I'm gonna clear management. Theo Epstein's my guy, although I know it's not gonna happen, but I'll be shocked if Shanahan still has a job. And I'm gonna be shocked if the new president doesn't hire a new GM. And I think he's gonna go too. I think you need to clear it all out because either you're gonna fire all the players or you're going to fire all the coaches and management. I think I'm going to start with coaches and management, but you know what? I'd blow up the whole team, Wayne. So I'm going to start off with management side and then we'll work our way to the players. So management side, if you're a betting man, everybody's gone.
I think so. I think everybody. I don't think. Well, let me couch that a little bit. So you're in the situation where you have four huge contracts, and all of them have no move clauses. You've already re-signed Austin Matthews, and you've already re-signed Nylander. They're here for the long term. Can you actually really do anything about next year? Are you going to be able to trade Marner? Yeah, you can trade Marner. Are you going to get what he's worth? No, you're not going to get what he's worth. Are you going to be able to trade Tavares? No, nobody's going to take Tavares for that $11 million unless you retain salary. And plus, again, he's got a waive, right? Does it make any sense to blow the team up now when the team is going to partially blow itself up next year. You don't have to re-sign Tavares. There's $11 million off the books. You don't have to re-sign Marner. There's another $11 million off the books, right? You have two big salaries then, and then you also have Morgan Riley, which that's another discussion. But all of a sudden you have cap room. If you try to do things between this year and this free agency period, one, there's not much out there to add to the team. And two, you're going to minimize what you can get back, right? You know, is Tavares really going to be able to add much to the team next year? I mean, he wasn't terrible this year. He's just not $11 million, and he's not a captain. I'm sorry. He's not a leader that I feel like, oh, okay, well, this is a guy you should get to see. I just don't feel that, right? Um, I think if we were looking at this with clear heads, we would say nobody needs to get fired this year, with the exception of Shanahan and possibly Keefe, if you think there's somebody out there that you can get now who is going to start instilling the locker room that you want, right? Look, Keefe strikes me as sort of a no-nonsense tough guy, the way he looks and the way he seems to react. But this team sure doesn't reflect that. And that's a reflection on the coach. The team should take some of the personality of the coach. And maybe I'm reading Keefe wrong, and they have taken the personality of the coach. But unless you have a clear, better option, what's the point of getting rid of him and paying him to sit around and do nothing when you're pretty much handcuffed next year anyway? How are you going to what is your path to get better next year? The path is pretty rough.
So
You almost, again, we've put ourselves in the situation with no trade clauses and everything else, where this is a situation where I believe it actually makes more sense to run it back one more year, because that's the way you've made the contracts fall. You've signed the two guys out of the four that I would want to keep. The other two guys, look, it's nothing against Marner. $11 million for what? He's a really good player. Is he an amazing player? Sometimes. Is Tavares an amazing player? No. Was he ever an amazing player? Yeah, pretty damn good player, but he's not anymore. But what are you going to do? You got to pay all four of those guys this year, unless somehow you convince one of the two of them or both to accept a trade. And then you're going to get bent over a barrel because people know it's the last year of the deal. They're not going to give you much back. What are you going to get if you put Marner out there on the open market? What are you going to get for him for a single year? A second rounder? A first? Is somebody going to give you a first for Marner for 1 year? I guess they would, but he's not going to accept a trade to a team that's going to give you a good first rounder, right?
So I got a plan for this. So much the way we manage our fantasy hockey team, manage our fantasy baseball team, well, except we don't get as good waiver wires, obviously. But I would look at the construction of my team and I would say, my goal is like this. It's very, very simple. I want to end up with as little players next year that were on my roster this year. That's it. And we have plenty of NHL teams to trade with and plenty that are not going to win a Stanley Cup and are going to need their changes. And I would take all my players and I'd say, look, you see my roster the way it is, trade clause, no trade clause, fine. Just tell me which guys you want and tell me who you want to make available. And you start making those 1-for-1, 2-for-2 swaps of similar type players. And I'd look at, and I'm not going to go through every single team and every single roster, but bottom line is this. I have a 20-goal guy. You got a 20-goal guy. They look pretty similar. Let's just do change of series and swap them, that kind of thing. Much the way Mike Keenan used to do it back in his day, except he did okay on occasion, but sometimes blew up teams like what he did with St. Louis, for example. like the Janny for Oates trade. That
Mhm.
kind of thing. I'm thinking. That's what I'm feeling right now. So I end up doing this whole thing. Now the guys with the no trade clause, I come to them and say, listen, this is my plan. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be frank with you. Every single person that doesn't have no trade clause will not be here next year. I guarantee you, because that's the way it's gonna be. You want to stay, you stay. Otherwise, you're gonna be on the market too. And I shop those guys, and I'm gonna trade my 40 goal guy for a 32 goal guy. I don't really care. I just want new blood, new energy, and that's that. Until I can get Linus Allmark. And to top it all off, besides the fact that I make this giant blow ups and just get new energy for the sake of getting new energy, what's wrong with finding is Mike Keenan? He's still around, right? Like I think he's coaching
I think
somewhere
he's
in
coaching
Russia,
in Russia or Europe. Yeah.
right? Imagine Mike Keenan walks into that dressing room with those egos. That would be fun to watch, wouldn't it?
Well, I said a couple of years ago when they were thinking about replacing, the coach at that time, how horrible would it be for you to bring John Tortorella in here for a year?
He's taken,
You
I
know,
think. I think he's
yes,
taken.
he is, but he wasn't at the time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And but everybody's afraid. Oh, well, I don't know if these guys can handle that sort of coaching or not. I don't give a crap whether they want to handle it or not. That's not their job. Their job is to do what the coach tells them to do, right? And if they want to sulk and be babies about it, well, then you know who shouldn't be on your team, right? Um, I just don't know. Like, I don't know who's kicking around there. I keep hearing Joel Quenneville as a possibility to step in here, right?
In a second. In a second.
I don't think this team would do it. After the things that happened in Chicago, I don't think they would sign him. And aside from Quenneville, there's not anybody else out there. I mean, Rob Brindamore, Craig Berube, I would bring those guys in. But Brindamore is re-signed with Carolina. Berube, they could have had this year, and they didn't get him.
Brendan Moore would have been fantastic, but man, he's the king of Carolina. He ain't going nowhere there. Why he has such a good situation, stability. Why would he want to come to this?
Well,
As
and not only that, but it tells you a lot about Rod Brindamore that the reason that he did not sign his contract for so long was he wasn't going to re-sign with Carolina until they took care of the assistant coaches first. That's how you get loyalty inside your management team and inside your room, right? Um, again, I blame little to none of this on the current coach. I don't blame Keith, but changes have to be made. I agree with you. I think the team does have to be blown up. I think it has to be blown up from the top down, but I just don't know if this year moving out personnel is going to be, you're going to make, if you're willing to accept that the team is going to be bad for a couple of years by taking on a bunch of players, because people are just going to be dumping guys on you, right? I don't think that's the way to go. I think that you try to pick around the edges here. You try to bring in a couple more guys like Joel Edmondson. You try to bring in, you mentioned the free agency list, which is pretty thin. Steven Stamkos is out there. Would he come in here and take a hometown discount and say play for what Tyler Bertuzzi played for this year, 5.5 million? I don't know. Stamkos took haircuts to stay in Tampa Bay, right? But would he come in here and how close is he to the end of his career? Well, real close, right? You might get him on a 1 year, $5 million deal. Would it make a big difference? Probably not. You
why
need
would
more
well, why would he want, when he sees what happened to Tavares, and why would he possibly want to enter this situation? Like, what would possess the man say, wow, look at those first round exits. I gotta get me a piece of this. Like,
because every guy who grew up in the GTA or in the Toronto area as a Leafs fan has the dream of coming back and being the guy who puts the cup here. And that's a powerful draw. I mean, it's a big reason for them to approach Stamkos and go, hey, we can't give you a ton, but we'll give you a 2 year deal at 5 million a year or something like that, right? Is Stamkos going to fix things? No, probably not. I mean, a guy who would have made a lot of fixes on this team this year would have been Corey Perry. Corey Perry is the kind of guy that this team needs, right?
But again, we are in this political,
Yeah, I
social
don't.
climate
They're not going to bring him in.
where I find him offensive because somebody said something about him that I don't know what exactly happened. But yeah, no, that's not gonna happen. And let's pull this in line with, you know what, we have a few more minutes as we're into today's topic, Wayne. How is this any different than the Toronto Maple Leafs to the Toronto Blue Jays? I mean, Lord, we're sitting in the middle of baseball season. It's May right now, and we're talking about that they're going to trade Guerrero, maybe trade Bichette. They're going to blow up this team at the All-Star break, trade deadline. Wayne, all the issues we're talking about as far as management goes, as far as the star players and no heart, not producing, not making it through the first round in the playoffs. Are we talking about the Blue Jays or are we talking about the Leafs? Because it sounds like the same damn team.
It's pretty much the same thing. You really want to get into this right now, or
I'm ready, Wayne. I'm
all right?
ready.
Look, I gave Shapiro and I gave
Shapiro,
those
Shapiro,
Shapiro.
Shapiro.
He hasn't performed well enough to have his name pronounced properly.
He did
And
upgrade the
Atkins,
stadium. He did
yes,
upgrade the Rogers Center.
not according to a lot of people I talked to. A lot of people that I've talked to that have gone this year said the sightlines, including one pretty prominent Toronto person that I'm not going to mention, but
Getty Lee.
somebody, huh?
Getty Lee.
Oh, I thought you're going to see Rob Ford. Like,
No.
no,
Getty Lee.
no, but I spoke with somebody recently who is pretty prominent in the Toronto sports business and said, I don't like I don't like the changes. The sight lines are bad, that sort of thing, right? Um, I gave Shapiro and Atkins. I thought I like this hiring. I think it's going to be okay, and it hasn't been. There's no direction to the team. And in the last week, we have at the time of this taping, we have Vlad Guerrero dropping a ball at first base that a 6-year-old would have caught. I don't care if you make, I mean, I do care, but if you make a physical error, okay, you made an error, deal with it. This is a case of Guerrero not looking the ball into his glove, blank off of his glove, and it cost them that game. It blew the game for them. How is that guy on the field the next day? Like I said that night, if Guerrero sniffs the field tomorrow, if he comes out for a pinch hit appearance, every single management person in the entire organization should be fired immediately. Everybody. Pull somebody in the stands and let them manage the team for the rest of the day. Everybody's fired. What happens? Guerrero's playing the next day. Manoah. They bring Manoah up. Look, I don't have a problem with them bringing Manoah up if you think that you can showcase him and move him to somebody to get something you need.
But he needs a shaman.
No.
He's cursed.
You can let him pitch. Okay. Has he shown in Buffalo that he's ready? I don't think so. But if you saw something and you thought we can't do anything more with this guy, and we'll talk about why that might be the case in a bit, bring him up. Why start him? Why put him out there at the beginning of the game? Why not bring him in the seventh inning of a 9-1 ball game and let him pitch a little bit just to get his feet wet? I actually thought that maybe he might have a good start because he's too thick-headed and thinks so much of himself that none of this would affect him. He didn't. But you know how that game started? It started with a half-assed play by Bo Bichette on a routine ground ball where he damn near underhanded the ball from shortstop to first base. So you have an extremely fragile pitcher who hasn't been in the league for 8 or 9 months. And the first pitch he throws, he gets a ground ball, a routine ground ball. And your shortstop doesn't care enough to throw the ball properly to first base. He should have been pulled from the game at that instant, Bo Bichette, and they should have put his butt on a plane to Buffalo. You suck. And I said this publicly too, and a friend of mine said, "Well, you wouldn't say that to his face." You're damn right I would. If I was in that locker room, look, I never played high end baseball. The best I ever played was like American Legion ball, and I coached American Legion ball. Could have played in college, but I would have played at a bad school, and I would have been bad at it. I wasn't physically gifted, but I cared. And if I had been in the dugout when Bo Bichette came off the field after the first inning, I would have grabbed him by his shiny, pretty hair and drug his butt down the tunnel and told him, if you ever do that again on a major league field, I will whoop your ass in the shower after the game. That's what the Blue Jays don't have right now. That's what the Leafs don't have right now. Neither one of those teams have a guy, even in their friggin' organization, that's willing to grab somebody by the neck and say, we don't play like that here. Now,
I
you want to go back to Manoah. I look, Manoah, I was really rooting for the guy. And when Guerrero hit the home run, I thought, oh, he's got a cushion now. Mechanically, he's still bad. But but look at the guy. Did he look visibly frustrated by the fact that he was stinking it up? No, he didn't look mad at all. And I'm just like, I want somebody who looks like they're going to go in and chew through the bat when they get into the dugout. We don't have those guys. We really don't. And that's what's wrong with both of these franchises.
I would bet you when Bichette and Guerrero came back to the dugouts after their respective miscues, I bet you the guys came up to them and said, "Don't worry, you'll get them next time." Some kind of BS like that. That's
Yeah.
probably the way it went down because you don't want to offend somebody, you know.
Well,
And
you can't take the chance that you're going to upset your two stars. The same way you can't take the chance that you're going to upset your stars.
but if Max Scherzer was in your clubhouse, if Corey Perry was in your clubhouse, those are the kind of leaders you need. You know, we thought the Joey Vottos of this world, but I don't know where Votto's at. I think he's still in Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't get JD Martinez. You know, we got Justin Turner. We thought Justin Turner could do it, but I think Justin Turner is kind of saying to himself, man, I feel like Jack Parkman, you know, on the Cleveland Indians and get me back to Chicago ASAP, you know, like that kind of feeling because Turner said, "Look, I'm doing everything I can humanly do here, and what the heck did I sign up here for?" You know, the Jays sucked last year, and to fix their sucking, what did they go and do? They lost guys and didn't replace them with anybody. And they thought, "Well, just run it out. We got a bunch of guys at AAA. They're gonna do the job." No, we don't have any prospects really. Like Tiedemann, like, you know, his elbow's falling off or it's inflamed or Lord knows. We got nothing in the barrel here. So my solution for the Jays is going to be the same as the Leafs. Go to the 29 other MLB teams and say, look, you're not going anywhere either. I'll trade you my 20 home run guy for your 20 home run guy. I'll trade my 10 win for your 10 win. But the difference is with the Jays, there's certain guys still I feel like maybe I'm emotionally attached to them. But, you know, Chris Bassett, for example, Justin Turner, you know, the few guys which I know who are veterans and can do it, I'm keeping them. Otherwise, Jordan Romano, I'm sorry, like you got to save, and every time you give up a home run or whatever you're doing there, Swanson, uh, get other bullpen pieces. There's enough bullpen guys out there. Someone will take our bullpen pieces, we'll take their bullpen pieces, but it's clearly not working. You know, in the offseason, they're talking about Pete Alonso for Vlad Guerrero. In a second, Wayne, in a bloody second, give me your 50 home run guy with, you know, clubhouse flair for this guy who's not what he was supposed to be. And they should have never put him in the home run derby. Vlad Guerrero should have never gone on the home run derby, never been the same afterwards. And I don't know what you could do with this team because literally, at least the Leafs, there's a lot of talent there. You know, I can say, look at the Leafs. I'm like, okay, you keep Morgan Riley and you keep Nylander. You know, there's Wall could be the backup and we can find ourselves an Allmark, whatever. But you look at the Jays and you look at their major league team, you look at their farm system, there's hardly any talent like Kiner Falefa and you got Kirk and Jansen. And okay, these are Okay, if you want to be a 500 team, but we want aspirations. Go look at what the Yankees, go look at the Phillies. You go and sign major free agents, you draft, you make good trades, you develop them. Look at the Rays. The Rays, their whole starting rotation is on the DL, IL, whatever you want to call it these days. And they all have Tommy John of some sorts. And they make other trades and they just get guys and they have good pitching coaches and they have good coaching staffs and they find guys and they keep winning. Why can't we do that?
We can't do it because we don't have the organizational strength from the top down. We can't do it because we have tried to build around the wrong two guys. Um,
So you're talking about the Leafs or the Jays right now?
it could be either one of them,
Sounds
but
the exact same.
it's the same for both teams, right? You've tried to build around with the Jays. They've tried to build around Guerrero and Bichette. If you went out on the market right now and tried to trade, you couldn't trade Guerrero and Bichette for Alonso right now,
You
right?
want to you want to laugh right now, Wayne? In one of my fantasy baseball leagues, Bo Bichette was dropped. He cleared waivers. Nobody is picking him up for free in fantasy baseball. I have Volpe as my shortstop, okay?
Mhm.
And I have Andy Pajes as my DH. Guess what? I don't need Bichette. I don't need his 200 average. So guess
Mhm.
what? No one's even picking up for free on fantasy baseball. That's bad.
Well, and part of the problem here is that what did you just say? You don't need him because you have a shortstop. Bichette's not a shortstop. He's never been a shortstop. They've tried to make him a shortstop because that's where he wanted to play. He's a second baseman at best, maybe a left fielder.
Left fielder. Like
He's not a shortstop. He's a
left field.
terrible defensive player. He makes some good plays sometimes, but you cannot count on him. So if you're going to have a guy who's going to hit 220, let it be John McDonald. Let Kiner Falefa play shortstop every day. I don't care. Just get me somebody who can catch the ball and throw it to first base, and then get me a first baseman who can catch the ball. We'll start there. Then we'll work out from that. Basic baseball. But everybody's worried about look at my home run. Look at me faking putting on the home run jacket. Look at me do this. I have an idea. How about Bichette shaves his head and spends that extra time taking fielding practice instead of doing his hair? At some point, you have to bring guys in who appear to give a crap about what's going on in the field. And I don't feel that this team, you said, look, I like Bassett. The whole pitching staff, the starting pitching is good. It's pretty damn good. Weren't we supposed to have a really good bullpen this year too? Now I look, the vagaries of the bullpen are one of the great mysteries of modern man. I understand. Things happen. Guys just, without usage, then they fall out of their rhythm and whatever else. Okay, I get it. That's one thing that you can't particularly control. But the rest of the team, like you said, who the hell did you bring in that you thought was going to be better this year? Look, I like all those guys. I like Kiner Falefa. Is he the third baseman or the shortstop on a World Series winning team? If you have seven other guys who can hit the ball out of the ballpark, sure.
He's your
If
backup
not,
shortstop I like him as a backup shortstop third baseman and bring him in once, twice a week and as a defensive replacement. Yes, not as your starting guy. Wayne, this all comes down to one thing, and I'm going to sum it up very easily in today's episode. For the Leafs, the second Lamoriello was gone, when you used to have Lamoriello, Hunter, and Dubas, this worked out really nice. I thought that was a great system that could have worked out for them. Once Lamoriello was gone, Hunter's gone, Dubas was left, didn't quite work, and then Dubas goes, and Shanahan is pulling the shots. Done. With the Jays, you had your hometown guy. You had Anthopoulos. You could have just given him the keys. We had a good thing going, right? Remember bat flips and all this nice stuff, right? We were winning. There was a good vibe. And what do? We get rid of him and bring in Shapiro Atkins so that they can construct or renovate our stadium. And oh, yeah, you got to take care of the team too. You look at the Shapiro Atkins regime and look at this team and look at every level. in the minors, look at their major league team. It's a freaking disaster. There's no roster construction whatsoever, you know? And, where did you think who's going to score runs? Who's going to hit? Who's going to drive them in? Like, this is freaking scary. So I think the moment you lost Anthopoulos, he goes and makes the wise trades, the wise free agent signings, locks up the right guys for short term deals, lets the right guy go. And even though, he let Freeman walk, he still found a Matt Olson. The second you lost Anthopoulos, you're not getting another Anthopoulos. Like, this guy is like a unicorn. He went to the Dodgers, was their VP GM, and then the Braves end up taking him, and all he's doing is winning out there. So no, I think we're screwed. I think that now we're gonna have to fire Shapiro Atkins. I don't think there's a doubt about it. I don't know who's gonna replace them, but you're not getting Anthopoulos, and you're not gonna get back Lamoriello, and Lamoriello is now like 99. And so the Leafs and the Blue Jays have a lot of work to do, and I think it starts from the top, just like you said.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The only thing I would say is that in the case of the Leafs, I don't know if you blow it up right now, unless you are just absolutely going to tear it down to the studs and to the floorboards and just start from scratch, that you're not better off maybe waiting a year to do this into a better free agent class. There's not much out there this year. And unless you know there's a guy you want to be your new president and your new GM and your new coach, you might as well wait a year and let these guys have one more kick at the can, because you're either going to have that roster construction and they're at least going to be exciting during the playoffs, or sorry, during the regular season, or you're going to move Marner, you're going to move Tavares if you can, and then what? You're going to start with a brand new coach and everything else. I am in favor of doing that, just because I don't think that no matter what you do, if you run everything back again for the Leafs this year, they're still not going past the second round. Let's say if they get lucky, look, they should play Wool all year next year. For gosh sakes, find out what you have. I hope the guy doesn't get hurt all the time, but go get yourself a capable backup and just play the guy.
But he's got to be healthy, Wayne. The man's not healthy. Like, it doesn't work.
Who have the Leafs signed that has been healthy?
Okay, 2026 Allmark. This is the way it's gonna go. I'm prepared to let 2025 kind of go. And by the way, if they run back this whole team the way it is, I am not turning on 1 second of Maple Leaf hockey on my TV. Mark my words. I ain't gonna watch one game. I don't need to see this. I know the way the story's gonna go. It's like watching The Walking Dead in season 13, and I get the way it's gonna go. It's the same season over and over. I feel like I'm watching The Walking Dead, watching the Leafs. Not interested. We're out of time for today. And we're going to stop banging our heads against the wall and stop talking Toronto sports, because next week we're going to recap the beginning of the NFL draft and talk about all this quarterback controversy. Stay tuned. This is the Chosen Life Podcast.